Right, we're going to be speaking some more about faith and religions and Christianity and psychology. Now, some of you may be a little bit bored of it now because, you like watching my videos for a whole bunch of reasons. And if at this particular time you feel that I'm, spending more time than you would like on this subject, you have to bear in mind that I have wrote a book about it. The book did take me 9 months to write. It did take me 14 years to acquire the information and the experience, and the subject is quite a big deal to me. Now, what is the big deal to me is that I've found the sheer deception of religions, and I found them via deep-rooted introspection, experience, studying human psychology, an enormous amount of reading and listening to documentaries about other options, human nature, philosophy, and all different sorts of realms. When we look at faith, we find it to be vacuous, and that's the whole premise of faith. It is empty. And the thing is, like, people, any Christians, any religious people watching me now, and there's still some of you here, if you're feeling ill feelings about anything I say, then again it's a lesson for you to question your faith. Because if your faith is a real faith, and it's a real belief, and it's a real something, there's a substance to it, then anything I say isn't gonna matter at all to you. In actual fact, at the very least you should pity me for failing to see the beauty and benevolence of the fiction that you believe in. And so, any of you that think, oh, I'm sad, or it's sad, or you prefer me to do this and do that, why? I mean, this is my channel, this is what I've been doing for fucking 10 years. I've always been doing this stuff, and some of you that have come now and new, and it's new to you, it's not new to me. I've been talking about this stuff for all that time. I've been dissing religion for a decade. And, I used to speak a great deal about Luciferianism and Satanism and all different sorts of isms. That's what I do. This channel is a psychoanalytical channel. It's a philosophical channel. And it rips holes in the arsehole of fiction, and things just don't stand up. And the greatest fiction and thing that just doesn't stand up on this world is religion. And every single road leads to deception, and every single road you traverse when you're looking into religion just leads to stupidity, ignorance, and biases, and sheer desire to think and believe something which doesn't stand up to scrutiny. And when people scrutinize it, you hate it. You hate it with a vengeance. And so, this is what I'm speaking about. And what I'm doing is, if I ever get any, well, you just hold up a mirror, because that's all I'm doing. I'm holding up a mirror for all of you. And even though some of you will, oh, you can't like this, still there's an undertow, and I can read the undertow, and it's, it's an element of chagrin and animosity, and, don't be beating up on, people's face, and I'll beat up on the fuck who I want to beat up on, and that's the prerogative of still living in a relatively free country. But doubtless that'll change, and lots of you can't wait for the day that it changes, because then you can bask in your own ignorance, stupidity, naivety and hypnosis forever, without ever being confronted with your silliness. But as long as there's people like me around, then unfortunately you're going to hear it from time to time. And also on this occasion, like on many occasions, when I'm sitting in these places, I'm drinking one bottle of beer, and so anything I say isn't alcohol induced, by the way. It's God consciously induced. It's a consciousness which cannot be disputed. It's a consciousness that cannot be refuted. I don't need a faith to know that I'm a conscious, intelligent, spiritual entity. I don't need blind faith and belief to give me that. I can look at myself and I can discern that, and that's what intelligent people have done around the world. And then when any intelligent people have a discussion with a religious person, well, there's intelligence on one part, and then there's stupidity, ignorance, biases and hate on the other part, and that's the only way that they can deal with a conversation about their silly faith. And so in my book, you know, I write a good deal about faith and the deception of it. And, you know, look, just do it yourselves. That's what I say. I take you through it, how I've done it. And, you know, if you're brave enough, and if you are, if you still have a modicum of freedom within your own mind to think independently outside of your biases and your indoctrination and your propaganda and all the rest of it, if you do, then you'll read my book with an open mind, and you'll see that it's highly premised in what anyone could call a reasonable veracity and efficacy. Because when I'm looking at faith, I'm saying, well, what is faith? Where is faith? Oh, faith, you got to have faith. Oh, you need faith. Everybody's got to have faith if they're going to believe in a religion. Well, why is that so important? Well, because, well, if you don't have faith, it kind of all falls through your fingers and there's nothing of these substance. So you need faith. Oh, do have faith. And then look at all these buildings being built out of faith. Look how strong faith is. Faith's a pack of cards. And as soon as you inspect it, it just comes tumbling down, and it's pathetic. And you know, look, as an intelligent thinking person with a philosophical inclination and a psychoanalytical inclination, I look very long and close and hard at things, and I'm not pulling no punches here, people, when I'm talking about bullshit. Bullshit is fucking bullshit. And, you know, I don't know how long I'm going to be speaking about this for, but I suppose it depends on how much I get provoked. And, you know, I've created a rod for my own back because I named my book Closer to God. And I should really have named it Closer to Satan. Or closer to the non-reality, closer to Maya, closer to spirit, closer to the essence of the cosmos. I could have named it a thousand things, which probably would have served me well over and above closer to God, but spirit chose that one for me. Spirit chose my destiny, and so I had to stand by it. And I'm sure the cosmos has its valid reasons as to why it has named that book Closer to God. And so in that book, I go through my journey of awakening and those 14 years of a myriad of experiences and introspection and study. And in the end, you know, having gave it my best shot, really to try to believe, really to try to find this Christian God in Jesus. And I was chastised for 3.5 hours by Jehovah. I was spoken to and showed unconditional love by Jesus. I have been seriously compromised by the devil, and I have been given messages by angels. So go figure on where I am now. But you see, looking into all these things, I've discovered that, well, this world, this human consciousness is very, very multifaceted and complex. And, you know, there are many, many reasons why these things could come about. And so along my journey, I've looked into egregores, I've looked into self-hypnosis, I've looked into, and I've actually, you know, achieved you know, out-of-body experiences, and you know, all different sorts of religious and spiritual experiences via entheogens or meditation, exercise, and so I've had more religious experiences than any Christian I've ever met, and guaranteed I've had more religious experiences than any of you that are watching these videos, and yet I am not a convert. I am not convinced. I know that this dimension is a shapeshifter. I know that the cosmos is a paradox, and so therefore I know that we could never ever ever find truth within the paradox. Every single facet of it is paradoxical. And you see, when we look at religion and we see that there are registered 4,200 religions around the world, and the vast majority of those think that their God's the real God. It's like when we're kids at school, my dad's tougher than your dad. You know, you would have thought that all these millions, billions of people would have just got their heads together and gone, well, you know, might we just all be thinking about the same thing, only we've just called it different stuff because of our cultural differences. You know, that would make sense, wouldn't it? But no, it's Jesus, and he's up there, and he loves you. Oh, it's Allah, and ooh, and it's Muhammad, and oh wow, feel the heinous energy, just to say those words, the heinous energy which pertains to them. Look how those words have been perverted, and they've gathered up this negative energy throughout the years. You know, they are seriously tainted concepts and words and energy vibrations. There's nothing benevolent about them. They are fraught with negativity and evil, and fantasy. And so, you know, when we look at the big three, we look at Judaism, we look at Christianity, and we look at Islam, and, you know, you all swear that your God's the God and the others are fake, and, well, doesn't that say something to you? Surely that says something to you. And then within your fraternities and your cults, you'll all have what you deem to be super intelligent scholars, and they can prove this and prove that, but they can't prove anything, and they can't discount anything, because it's all hearsay, it's all fiction. And so you just have to depend and rely on your own fantasies. And that's the thing, that's the beauty of being a human being. We can fantasize about our life, and we can create our worlds premised on our fantasies. That's what we do. That's what everybody does. We fantasize our ideal world into reality, a form of Maya. And those of you that are creating bad ones, and you think, oh, I wouldn't create this, so that's not true. Well, you're doing it subliminally, you see. You're doing it from your programs, from your pain and your suffering. That's how you're doing it, because you've not managed to address those and look at them closely and see that, you know, you've been programmed badly. And it wasn't your fault, you know, you was in circumstances which were such that led you to have certain beliefs and, you know, feel in a certain way. Now, the thing is, you see, you know, what I've often been bewildered about is when I respect somebody, like I respect Rupert Sheldrake for his brilliant hypothesis of morphic resonance. But he's a devout Christian, and he loves to go to church and pray to Jesus. I'm like, how does that work? Then Russell Brand, who I have admired for many years, dropping that bomb on us the other day, I'm like, Well, I know how it works with you, Russell, because I know how fickle you are, I know how needy you are, I know how infatuated you become, but I don't know those things about Rupert Sheldrake. He seems a very level-headed sort of person, but what I can say about all people who insist on Jesus or Allah being true is because they want it to be true. Why do they want it to be true? Because they are emotionally devoid of satiation. They cannot get the level of joy and love and satisfaction and stability that they need in life anywhere else except in their own created fiction. And it just so happens that certain institutions, organisations and cults already have these ready-made meals for one, and all you got to do is just go to the supermarket and you buy one, and then you bang it in the microwave and hey presto, you've got your own God and Jesus to believe in. And it's as simple as that. It's all ready made for you. So what is it about these religions that keeps people bound? It's their emotional void. It's their emotional disposition. It's the longing to get back into the womb. You know, humanity en masse has a psychological disposition which subliminally wants to get back in the womb. Consciousness remembers the time of such tranquility, warmth and comfort of the womb, and then coming out is very, very shocking, and it all goes downhill from there on. And so we're all longing to get back into the womb. So that's why religions are you know, so sought after, because people, they need that womb, and the religion is the closest thing that they're going to get. That Jesus loves them, Allah loves them, and you know, Jehovah loves them. They are cherished, and these gods reserve a seat alongside themselves. So don't worry, you know, you just keep praying to me, you just keep paying into our coffers. All your energy throughout all your life, you give your energy to me, to me, to me. How parasitical is that? If you've got these wonderful gods and they're all powerful and everything, why do they need your energy? Why can't they just say, look, I'm here if you want me. Know that I am real, and when you die, you're coming to me. Why can't we just know this? Why can't this be an instinct to us? Why can't it just be a very powerful intuition? It isn't. It's something that we have to beg for. It's something that we have to con ourselves for. It's something that we have to be very, very emotionally compromised before we start seeking out the most ridiculous. And then we have to throw our rational thought and our intelligence to the wind, and we have to clutch at this thing called faith, which doesn't mean anything except your own hypnosis and self-deception. And so, you know, I'm speaking perfectly sense, aren't I? I'm speaking perfectly rational, and there's nothing that any logician could discount from what I'm saying. Any psychoanalyst, any spiritualist, they couldn't discount what I'm saying. The only people that are going to be discounting what I'm saying are people who have been indoctrinated into religious cults, and they're so very, very insecure, and they're just desperate for that womb. And your womb may be Jesus or Allah or Jehovah, you know, Elohim, whatever it is, that's your bag. But you know what I say is just accept that that's your bag. Accept that this world is premised on Maya. It is our consciousness that creates our own dream and our own world. And if I want to dream about something beautiful, if I want to imagine that there's this lovely white man with a little cute goatee that's, you know, going to be walking with me, well, I mean, how does that fare up for, you know, like Africans or the Chinese or the varieties of Asians like Indians and that? How does it fare up? It doesn't invariably, does it? They've got their own idea of what their God looks like. So it's just all patently, obviously ridiculous. And it's your delusion, it's your unconstrained emotional state that creates this void for religion to supplant something within, or you to borrow and beg something from them. It's like a builder's merchants are selling bricks. You beg and borrow a brick, and you put it in the wall. You know, the Jesus wall. You put your brick in the wall. But at the end of the day, all in all, people, it's just another brick in the wall. So, when we look into this, and I've looked into it, and so when you've read my book, you'll at least have some respect for my thoroughness. I've been very, very thorough, and I really have given religion the benefit of the doubt. And in my book I speak about encounters whereby I have prayed to God and Jesus, and kind of miraculously something has manifested within an instant and given it to me. And for a lot of people that would have been convincing enough, but something just won't allow me to be convinced, and I don't know what it is. I don't have any particular adversity. I've not been bummed by, you know, a Catholic priest or anything like that. I've never had any affiliation with any religion in my family or friends or anybody, but it's been my destiny to delve into these sort of philosophical things, because the cosmos wanted me to go on a certain journey, and it took me on this journey all of my life. And looking back now, when I was very young, I always knew that there was something there. There is something there. And you know, you can call it any number of name or God, but I know there is something there, people, and I don't discount that there's something there. I just discount that it's a Jesus or it's a Muhammad or, you know, any of the rest of them. I just discount that because it smells too much, and it doesn't stand up to rational thought. And so I state in the book that, well, my God is kind of like a Spinoza God. It's the universe, it's the cosmos, and God is everything, in everything. And when you awaken, and when your mind is open and pure without any biases, then you see God in every single thing. And so I quizzed and questioned and grilled Christians for 6 months solid, speaking to pastors and everything, trying to get their stories out of them, and I couldn't find anything convincingly. And what I told them of all my spiritual encounters, and they never had a single one to tell me in return. And I said, don't you think that's a bit weird? I've got all these stories, very powerful, you know, stories, which I can recite to you in the greatest of details, exactly the same every single time. And even I, you know, I don't doubt my sanity. They actually happened. But how did they happen? And what was it? That's the thing. What was it? And so, you know, there is something. I know, I've met many spirits. I know that this is a spiritual dimension. We're all spirit, everything's spirit. And so there are spirits here. So there's lots of spirits vying for the energy of the human being. That's one thing I've been very, very conscious of all my life. Everything is vying for the energy of life force, a particularly human life force. And to receive our consciousness, institutions, organisations, cults and all the rest of it, they just thrive on our energy, you see. So we have to be very, very careful where we place it and who we allow to use it. And my advice is that you don't give it away to anybody or anything. You keep it for yourself. Because of how powerful and how precious it is, you keep it for yourself if you know what's good for you. But if you give it away to a cult, we all know what happens to people when they give their power away to a cult, don't we? Of course we do. So you should be able to see that in your own cult. But people, they write to me and they tell me, oh, Jesus, and Jesus, and Jesus, and Jesus. I'm like, well, look. You know, you've probably seen my previous video by now, and I said a lot of it in there, so I won't repeat it here. But we can build up an energy and create egregores. And that's what we do throughout life. We create our own fantasy fictions. And, you know, our minds do this. our minds will create devils and angels and any number of things in between. We know that they do that, so why don't we just accept that, you know, that our cherished gods are nothing more than that? And there's plenty of them. I mean, even states in the Bible that, you know, the gods, the Elohim, which is plural for God, didn't want Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge, because to them, they feared that Adam and Eve would become like them. You see, it's very, very clear that it's plural, gods. And then, you know, scholars try to worm and weasel the way out of that. But then when you look into who that God actually was, the demiurge, then you can see that that demiurge doubtless emerged from the Anunnaki or the Nephilim, something like that, because people have spoken about those that came from the stars, you know, all over the world. And it says in the Bible that there were giants. It says in the Bible that there were Nephilim. It says in the Gnostic writings that there are watchers, which basically, you know, is kind of like archons or Nephilim. And so, even in the Bible, it accepts that there's other entities. And so, when we look at other angles of describing and explaining who the God of the Old Testament was, well, it's plain to see that that God wasn't a very good God. He was absolutely crap at creation, because if he did create the heavens and the earth and everything like that, he fucked up so bad that he had to completely wipe it clean and start again. And so he killed untold animals and life forms because he was just, these Adam and Eve guys, they're fucking twisting my melon. I'm going to wipe them all out. Start again. What sort of God is that? What sort of God? What sort of a God would build this beautiful Garden of Eden for his cherished creation, and then put an evil snake in the middle of it? Or put this temptation of beautiful, glistening, succulent looking fruit that one day you might just be tempted to eat, and then all of a sudden you'll be chastised and demonized and thrown out of the Garden of Evil. Freudian slip there, the Garden of Evil. It was a fucking Garden of Evil, people. The Garden of Eden was the Garden of Evil. Of course it was, because that was the realm of the serpent. From one perspective, but by the way, I don't consider that the serpent was evil. I consider that the serpent, and in all cultures, the serpent is deemed to be wise. It's the wise creature. And it's only in the Bible that it's spoken of in a demeaning way, because in all of the mythology, all over the world, the serpent is revered. And so the Bible have turned it upside down again, like they did everything. They just inverted every fucking thing. And so then what we will discover when we look deeper into all this stuff, that there's certain sectors of the Jews, Ashkenazi or Zionist, they're Luciferian, and they follow, worship the light bearer. And in my estimation, that just sounds much more reasonable. The light bearer. And, you know, there's nowhere in the Bible which convincingly says that Lucifer was the devil. It's only like alluded to maybe 1 or 2 times, 1.5 times. It's so very, very weak. They weren't the same thing, people. Lucifer, the light bearer, is kind of like Prometheus. Prometheus offered the torch of light to man. So that's what Lucifer did. So where's the wrong in that? Where's the wrong in the serpent saying, if you eat from that tree, you'll fucking get knowledge, and then you won't be ignorant dumb fucks under the jurisdiction of that evil God, which wants to keep you ignorant? It doesn't make any sense. Why would a God want to keep his beautiful children ignorant? Why wouldn't he want to teach them about everything? That makes sense, doesn't it? Keeping them ignorant. Would you keep your children ignorant? You wouldn't, would you? It don't make no sense. Because if you kept them ignorant, you'd be doing them a great disservice. None of it makes sense, people. It's all a crock of shit. But just because you have a failing, a loss within your own minds and hearts that you don't understand, then you clutch to that and you fantasize about that, and you hate it when people like me point out the plain obvious. facets of all this stuff, and that's it. So you deal with that anyway. And as far as me, what do you say? People say like, I don't know, pissing on or crushing or demeaning or whatever someone's faith. Look, it's your fucking fantasy. It's your deficit. You can't expect the whole world to join you in your deficit of, non-thought. Religion is a non-thinking thing. You just read the dogma and you accept blindly, and you have faith, and you build it up, and you build it up, and you build it up, and you keep building it up every day because it's so fragile. You got to keep having faith, because without fucking faith it all falls down. And so, any of you as Christians, you make up your own mind what you want to do, where you want to be. I'm not a people pleaser. I've never ever intended to please anybody. I've always set out to upset everybody. I'm completely secure in my own isolation. I've never needed friends. I don't need friends. I don't want friends. I'm perfectly happy if now and again I have one or two that, spend a bit of time with, but, if they don't ever come around anymore, then I'll continue exactly the same. Never a deficit to me. I'm completely whole without anybody. I don't need a partner. I don't need nobody. I don't need no God or pie in the sky. I know that I am the cosmos. I am the universe. And when you know that, you don't need faith about some silly Billy walking on water, do you? And that's the fact, people. I'm a self-realized, enlightened being. And I know a thing or two about this. And I will, be open to discussion to the most brilliant of biblical or religious scholars, and I will ask them some very, very embarrassing questions. That's why they would never, ever dare to come to speak with somebody like me. Wow, what a day! Oh, I'm in heaven. Look. You know what heaven is, right? This is heaven. This is heaven, people. Can you hear the sound of heaven? Glug, 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 glug. The sound of heaven. What's the feeling of heaven? A little bit tipsy. Satiated from the savouriness of the fat and salt. Basking in Akhenaten's God. I'm a pagan through and through. I worship the natural world. I worship the sun. And I'll be completely joyous, satiated. With that alone, what more would I want? You talk to me about some ridiculous notion of a heaven up there in the clouds somewhere. Ooh, fucking hell. And then in the Bible, it writes a couple of lines. Literally, about fucking 3 lines about heaven in the Bible. It's preposterous. You would have thought that if God, was half smart, he'd be like, well, I best explain what this wonderful place is like a little bit more. Instead of just saying, well, it's kind of like a cube and it's kind of a little bit see-through like amber. It's an amber cube and inside the lion lays down with a lamb and the streets are paved with gold. You're going to love it. Come on, you're going to love it there. I look around here and I go, that sounds like hell to me, motherfucker. If I ever heard it, sounds like fucking hell. Bullshit. You're telling me this is hell? You're telling me this isn't heaven? What are you, sick? The chiming clang of fucking doom again. We know what time it is. It's time to be free and stop fucking believing in your bullshit. That's what time it is. You fucking idiots. Don't you just love the Awake and Brave videos? Can't get this anywhere, can you? You can't get it anywhere. How amazing for somebody to be so unique, to have a channel which delivers awesome content, super duper awesome content, and gets about 100 hits on every one of his videos, because the vast majority of the world, it just can't see it. The wisdom is invisible to them. And this is why people like Nietzsche, he sold 40 books. He sold 40 copies of his book when he wrote his first book. And most of those were bought through embarrassment from his family and friends. But that's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with numpties. We're dealing with very, very silly billies. And very easily beguiled with fiction. The whole thing's a fiction. It's a dream. It's Maya. Good God. You know, read the Tao Te Ching. Read Buddhist philosophy. Read Eastern philosophy in general. Read philosophy, damn it! And if you dare, I used to talk to this chaplain, and he was an obnoxious old fucking git. Obnoxious old fuckface he was. And I would tell him about the spiritual encounters, and as I was telling him, he'd purposely be going, when I'm getting to the really, fruity bits of my, religious encounters, my spiritual encounters of God and Jesus and angels and the devil himself. And he couldn't stand it. And then he never had anything to say. And I would say to him, look, I'm reading this book at this moment in time, and it's an awesome book, and it gives you this perspective. And he goes, patting the Bible like this. They're the only books I need to read. Those 66 books. And literally, I wanted to throttle him and end his misery. What a sad fucking feck. And his only religious encounter was one day he was travelling around on his cycle, travelling a few states in America, and he was sick of eating bologna, and he prayed to Jesus. Jesus, oh please, Jesus, please, I'm tired of eating bologna. Can you provide me with something more exciting and nourishing? And he says, you know what happened? You know what happened? That night, I pulled into a campsite, and I'm setting up my tent, and as I did that, there was one guy that walks over to me, and he says to me, we'd like to invite you to come over and eat with us tonight. He said, we've bought a whole leg of beast, and we've got too much for ourselves. Come and join us. And then this dude says, and so I ate steak for the next 3 nights, and that's when I knew God was real. Oh, go figure with these Muppets, people. Good God. Anyway, I'd love to talk to you more. I could talk to you forever. And, I don't ever mean any malice. There's not a malicious bone in my body. I fuck with you, I joust with you. Just like anyone would if they knew that you was just barking up the wrong tree. You wasn't thinking straight. The road you was on was going to lead to nowhere. And so your best of friends at some stage are going to be telling you about that, aren't they? Otherwise they're not your friends.